So, Greg, now we're going to talk about Plato's Phaedo, 84D through 85B, a long passage about swans, which Socrates gives here.
And once again, the kind of myth that he is thinking about is not necessarily the kind of myth that Athenians are ordinarily worried about, let alone think about. And again, I see the Orphic flavor in the sense that Plato's Socrates, really understands the traditions attributed to that master poet and seer, Orpheus, who, even in canonical thinking, preceded Homer, and who, in the Athenian democracy, was no longer considered to be important to study. So here he is thinking of the god Apollo, who has a special relationship with Orpheus, because Orpheus is not only a master poet, but he's a master seer, a master prophet. And he brings in, Plato's Socrates does, the image of the swan as the attendant of the god Apollo. And that is already, again, a very mystical theme, rather elitist, and something that resonates with an older world of keeping certain high truths away from the everyday person and reserving those high truths for those who deserve to be part of that world of truth because of their status. And so this is fairly subversive as far as the Athenian state is concerned. I like the fact that the word that I'm translating as attendant is therapōn, which we have seen already in all sorts of interesting contexts having to do with not just ritual substitution, but worshiping of gods in such a way as to allow your identity to be absorbed by the god. Mm-hmm. And something else that's interesting, if you think, well, what is Apollo the god of? It's so easy for us to say Mousikē, and we think of music, but we must remember that from the point of view of the 5th century, Mousikē is the art of the muses, and that could include even Homeric recitation, so it doesn't have to be music in the modern sense of music. But let's go one step further. For philosophers, Mousikē not only includes philosophy, but privileges philosophy over all other arts, including the art of poetry, the art of the seer, the art of playing a 7-string instrument, whatever it is. And so to come to the central part of Socrates' world of imagination here, he ties in folklore about swans singing a swan song. And we still are part of that folklore. We still say swan song when we think of the last song that a dying swan will sing and how it's the most beautiful. But Socrates gives it an edge because he says the folkloristic way of thinking about a swan song is that the swan sings such a beautiful song because it knows this is the last song I'll ever sing. And here is where he gets mystical again, that the song that is the last is an expression of rapture, delight at the prospect of what might happen beyond the mortal life. So it contributes, this whole world of images contributes to the various scenarios that we're collecting bit by bit about how to imagine a life after death for the psūkhē, which for all practical purposes we might as well translate, starting with Plato, as soul, I've certainly resisted that in our study of earlier contexts of psūkhē, but here I give up. We might as well say so.